Anya Orga, again. I don't know if I've spoken about her in past videos. If not, she's a YouTuber. She makes a lot of videos about her personal form of spirituality, which is very self-centric. And that's actually sort of what I wanted to, or actually it is what I wanted to make this video about. Because she recently posted, actually it wasn't very recent, I've just been sort of going through her videos like an obsessive stalker, but a little while ago she posted a video about her spirituality and how it relates to self-development. And she spoke about how her spirituality is very self-centric, and how at first when she began this development of her spirituality and she would read or view things created by other pagans that would show their own beliefs and how they related to the world, she would kind of compare her beliefs with their beliefs and walk away feeling as if her beliefs were kind of selfish, and because of that, kind of smaller or more insignificant, because really they only really relate to her and how she feels about not only herself but the universe and etc. Because it's certainly with large religions, Wicca, with Christianity, Islam, religions like that, they have very core tenets, and there's a lot of people who believe in those core tenets, and they can lead to both a lot of good and a lot of bad, depending on how people interpret those tenets. But the main point of that is that there is a kind of connective belief system there among the individuals who believe in that religion that creates a kind of powerhouse of spiritual energy, if that it doesn't get too wooey for you. But do you get sort of what I mean by that? With the more people that you have believing a certain thing, the better of a chance that group's goals are going to become accomplished. And I don't know if that's exactly what she was talking about with that video, if that's exactly how she feels, but it got me thinking about that, and how that is true, and how if you do come from a place where your spirituality is more of an individual nature, you can feel kind of small because you are just one person against, I don't want to say against because you're not really against them, but you are just one person compared to literally millions of people who all believe at least something similar to each other. But I've honestly not felt more empowered than when I have started. I haven't felt more empowered since when, I don't know how to word this sentence. I haven't felt more empowered than since when I first started developing my own spirituality. And while it is very self-centric, at least right now, I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. Because I feel ultimately what my goal is with this whole spirituality thing is making myself a better person. And I am only one person, and there's only so much that I can do, but I really think that individual spirituality is kind of a revolutionary thing, because I think that for most of history, most religions have been religions where they're groups of people who all believe in one thing, and these groups are against that group, or this group is doing something different from that group, or whatever it is, and it can, I guess, create a lot of good. I mean, a lot of good came from a lot of the major religions, but it also creates a lot of conflict. And I don't really know where I'm going with that, but mostly what I want to talk about is, like I said, individual spirituality, And I was thinking about that on like a wide scale thing. And even though individual spirituality remains personal to each individual, I really like this idea of there being all these individuals across the world who have their own ideas. And maybe it's a bit naive of me, but to be able to share these ideas in a way that is really positive and beneficial, in a way that is, yeah, positive and beneficial. Because I think there's something so strange to me about what so many religious people do, which is claim without a doubt that what they believe in is the correct thing, and they base it off of ancient documents and the Pope and like whoever. And I mean, certainly I'm not going to argue with them if they believe without a doubt that something exists. But just personally, when I think about my beliefs and where they're going, and I think about what they're based on, they're based off of a lot of feeling. Feeling that comes from a part of me that recognizes that although science has made a lot of accomplishments and has done a lot over the centuries, there are still things that it is incapable of explaining, at least right now. And so when I look at the holes, I can only fill those holes with things that I care about and that resonate with me, at least until they can be disproved. But I even so, I still recognize the fact that there's still a chance for my beliefs to be disproven. They're mostly self-developed. They're inspired by other religions, ancient religions, but they're still very unique to myself because of the different mixture and pulling apart and adding together of these different cultures and my own culture and my own personality. It makes it unique to myself. And I am fully aware of the fact that there's nothing that can prove that that's true. Just like with Christianity, and I kind of pick on Christianity, but I am an American. I live in the West. It is very prominent in my culture, and certainly in my upbringing. So it's the religion that I'm most knowledgeable about, which is why I go to it so often. I forget what I was talking about now. But yeah, I mean, with Christianity, with Christians, they are very much strict about the fact that their belief is the only belief. And they base it on a book that was written centuries ago that by human beings who are just as fallible as anyone else. And they all have their own unique ideas about like whether or not these people were inspired or divinely inspired by their god or whatever. But what it comes down to is just the fact that literally no one knows what's true. We are all just sort of searching for something that fits with our own personal beliefs about things. And that's all you can really expect from people, because we are all individuals and unique. And because of that, we're going to see the universe in individual and unique ways, and find solutions to problems in ways that are unique to us. So I don't think that's a bad thing. I think if anything, I don't really want to say that having large religions is a bad thing, because I think that there's something to be said about that sense of community that can be very positive, and that the power that comes with numbers, so long as that power is used for good things. But I do think that there is something powerful about the idea of this new agey kind of individual spirituality. I'm officially coining that term. But but it is powerful, this idea of that individual spirituality, because I just really like the idea of different people coming together with wildly different ideas and sharing them and developing new ideas and really growing as a people while still remaining individuals. And I think that's a difficult concept for people to grasp. I consider myself an individualist, and I think as Anya Orga sort of demonstrated a little bit, when people, and I don't know if she identifies as an individualist, but I would say that she has individualist tendencies in a lot of ways. And I think when people meet someone like that, they do assume that they're selfish. But I think that self-centeredness, if you want to call it that, can lead to a lot of personal growth that can still lead to just being a better person, and caring more about other people. When I was, well, anyway, I won't go there. I just think that the power of the individual is pretty amazing, and I don't really see groups of people. I really do see individuals. Certainly, there are problems that affect more of certain types of people than other types of people. For example, all minorities face oppression, but each individual within each of those minorities are going to react differently to that, and have different ideas about how to solve it. Some might not even feel as though there's anything to be solved, and others, of course, will find that completely outrageous and wrong. But it still stands that regardless of how often you try to bunch people together, people are going to remain individuals. So, yeah. I guess that's it. That sort of ended a little bit lamely, but without the risk of this video going too long, basically what I'm just trying to say is I think individual spirituality can be really powerful. I think it's a revolutionary thing. I don't think it's been done too often in history, to my knowledge. I think it's a relatively new thing. I think it kind of picked up with Wicca in a way. Certainly Wicca in the 1950s, and now I'm onto a historical lesson, but certainly Wicca in the 1950s was a pretty new thing with Gerald Gardner and the stuff that he was coming up with. It was kind of a major religion in a way. I don't know if I would call it that. It was like Christianity in a way, and like the major religions in a way, because it did sort of encompass this group of people, like Christianity encompasses a group of people. The group of people that it encompassed, Wicca, was pretty small, but still, it did encompass a group of people, and it did eventually grow into an even larger group of people that stretched worldwide, globally. But I do think that it kind of lit the match of that idea of being able to just come up with your own belief system that's sort of outside of the norm of what's traditional. And now you find a lot of pagans, especially today, who have completely different ideas about the way that the world works, and about divinity, and about science, and all these different things. There are all these crazy concepts, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm kind of simplifying it by leading it all back to Wiccanism, Wicca. I'm sure these ideas have been sort of bubbling down for centuries, but I think in a way Wicca was kind of the impetus. Is that the word? the catalyst of this kind of wellspring of bravery when it comes to individuals coming up with their own ideas about the way that the world works. So yeah, wow, this is 15 minutes long. Because I just do want to touch on something a little bit really quickly. Just as an example, Anya Orga in particular, she describes herself as a naturalistic pantheist something pagan. Yeah, naturalistic pantheist pagan. I think so. And I'm not going to really go into the definitions of each of those things, mostly because I don't think that I'm knowledgeable enough about each of those things to really put forth a solid definition of them. But just the understanding of the fact that there is something called naturalism, that there is something called pantheism, and something called paganism, and that here is one individual who has blended them all together, and they're not mutually exclusive. I'm not trying to say that, but they're certainly unique terms, and she's somehow, as an individual, found a way to incorporate them into her life in a meaningful way. And she's just one person. You have tons of people across the world who are doing the same thing. And just by watching her videos, I really have felt as though I've come to understand myself a lot more, and my belief system a lot more, and like the where I want to go with it. So, and that's exactly what I'm talking about with the power of individual belief systems, of individual spirituality. That's the power of it. That conversation that gets developed, the lack of fear that individuals like she, like her, like she has, however you want to word that sentence. That's what we need with this kind of individual spirituality. Because there are so many different ideas that are left unexplored just due to the fact that the major religions have kind of butted in and left very little room for anything else. So finally, you have people who are making the room and doing things that are unique. It's almost kind of like and I'm not Buddhist or anything, so I mean I could be completely butchering this, but it's almost kind of like the idea of nirvana, and being kind of academic, being kind of scholarly, and learning as much as you possibly can, not only of the world and not only of like mathematics and science and all of that stuff, and understanding it to a degree that makes you kind of not divine, but kind of whatever. But also understanding yourself in a way that makes you self-actualized, which is really kind of another word for nirvana, if you want to look at it that way. And please, if you are Buddhist and you know 100% what nirvana does, which I don't, you can totally call me out on any mistakes that I'm making. But I've always sort of seen nirvana in that way, and I'm not a Buddhist, but that concept of becoming the best you that you can be, and now I'm reverting back to kindergarten with that, but that concept of being the best you that you can be, and like learning as much as you possibly can, and understanding yourself as much as you can, and being as kind and as compassionate. Compassion is like such a huge word for me. That's constantly what I'm striving to be, is just more compassionate. All of that, it's just such an important part of not even my spirituality, but just like me as a person. And because of that, it blends into my spirituality a lot. So yeah, now I'm done. That's it. I have no more words. So hopefully this makes sense. I don't know. I was sitting in bed and I watched this video and I was like, I had to get this out of my head. So there you go. Handed it all over to you. I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and thanks for listening.